Okay, brilliant.
Hello, and today we got Mike Tumilty, former referee in Scotland. Hiya, Mike. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. How are you, Angus?
I'm good, thank you. Let's start off. What is your first memory of playing football?
First memory of playing football, crikey, that would be in my hometown of Hartlepool, playing in the back street with my friends, just kicking the ball about and sort of just having fun. Yeah, just loved it.
When was the first time you realised you wanted to become a referee?
So when I was a kid, I always wanted to play in goal, and one of my sort of idols or heroes was sort of Peter Shilton and Ray Clemence, and I kind of realised pretty early on that I was never going to be sort of Ray Clemence or Peter Shilton, and I've been to a few football matches when I was probably 8, 9, 10, and as I got a bit older, I realised I wasn't good enough. And then I started thinking, yeah, I want to be involved in this. So I wonder if I could become a referee rather than actually be a great goalkeeper.
So what was the first game you refereed?
Crikey. The first game I refereed probably would have been an under-13 match in Hartlepool in 1987 when I was 16 years old. And it was just between two under-13 teams, and I don't even think I had the full referee's kit at that point in time. I was just kind of wearing a pair of shorts and a tracksuit top because I was still waiting for the kit to arrive.
So what about your first professional game you refereed?
First professional game. So my first ever game as a Category 1 referee was in 2003. And that was Albion Rovers versus Queen's Park at the San Siro of Scottish football at Coatbridge at Clifton Hill. And a bit of notoriety for that game, Angus, is I actually ended up in my first senior game with 3 red cards, which is not really how it was supposed to pan out, but you just got to do what you've got to do.
So what was the first ever red card you gave to a player?
Oh my goodness. Again, I think that would be back in sort of youth football in Hartlepool, probably under 15s, and just a wild tackle from a 15-year-old sort of boy who was probably kicking bits out of the opponents and just overstretched the mark. So yeah, probably way back then.
So who's the best player you've had to give a red card to?
Crikey. The best player to give a red card to? My goodness. I don't know if I've ever been asked that question. I've certainly given some red cards to a couple of Hearts players over the years. So Michael Stewart, Ian Black. They definitely weren't the best players, but I mean, they were good players, but they weren't the best players. Yeah, I don't know if there's any sort of mega player that stands out that I had to show a red card to be honest. Yeah. No, can't think of a mega player.
What is the best game you've refereed in?
So the best game I definitely refereed, the toughest game, the best game I ever refereed was Hearts against Rangers at Tynecastle in 2011. And Hearts beat Rangers that day, 17,000 in Tynecastle. Crowd was amazing, live on Sky Television, and just immense. Just without shadow of a doubt, the biggest game with the best atmosphere. Yeah, definitely.
Who's the best player you've refereed or shared the pitch with?
So that's a really good question, because I was fortunate enough to go to some Champions League games, and basically we did Schalke, and Schalke that night, Manuel Neuer was in goal for Schalke before his big move to Bayern Munich. Ultimately, also being full official at Bayern Munich. But I think the one that sort of I really like is we did a Champions League game in Cluj in Romania, and they played Roma and Daniel De Rossi. was the captain of Roma, and after the game, the Roma sort of kit man came in with 6 strips because it was a team of 6, referee, 2 assistants, 4th official, and 2 additional assistant referees. And I was behind the goal, and basically the guy came in, and I was sitting near the door, so he handed me the bag, and I took the bag and I rummaged through the bag, and one of the guys who was on the trip with us, called Keith, said, if they come in with kits, I really want Francesco Totti's strip. And it was his last European game. So I got the bag and rummaged through the bag, and I pulled out Totti and I pulled out De Rossi. So Keith got Totti's strip and I got De Rossi's. And then I just threw the bag across to the other guys and said, oh guys, they've dropped in some strips. And they started rummaging through, and they couldn't find any decent players because I'd basically nobbled the 2 kits for myself and Keith. So I think Daniel De Rossi was also pretty cool to be on the pitch with him, for sure.
So what's the worst decision you've ever made on the football pitch?
Crikey. So I did, an incident involving Michael Stewart. My first ever televised game as a referee in Scotland was Gretna versus Hearts. And Gretna were playing their Premier League games at Fir Park at Motherwell, because obviously their ground wasn't okay for the Premier League. Oh, did it cut out? What happened was basically there was an incident involving Michael, and he kind of swung his arm out, and Danny Granger was playing for Gretna, who ended up playing for Hearts, and Danny Granger went down holding his face, and I wrongly assumed that Michael had swung an elbow in Danny's face. So I red carded Michael, but what was quite clear after the match is he hadn't really caught him, and it was just more of a loose arm. So it should have only ever been a yellow card, not a red card. So that wasn't a great decision in my first ever televised game.
So how many times did you actually send Michael Stewart off? Because it sounds like you did it quite a few times.
I think I just sent him off that once, actually. I certainly booked him with the yellow card quite a few times, but I think I only sent him off just the once.
What's the best stadium you've refereed
in? So I think that would be the Allianz. I think being 4th official Bayern Munich in the Champions League, the Allianz Arena was amazing. In terms of on the pitch, I think on the pitch it's got to be Celtic Park or Ibrox, just because they're just so big and quite intimidating. But from a refereeing perspective, when you're running out in front of 60,000 or 50,000 people, it's quite an amazing feat, and you kind of almost feel like you've sort of made it as a referee.
What was the nicest fans? The ones that wouldn't usually give you abuse? Because I imagine as a referee, you must have got a fair amount.
Yeah, the nicest fans. Clubs. I don't know whether it's fans or clubs, but I mean, I always really enjoyed going up to Inverness and Ross County. Great clubs run by really, really nice people, and always pretty friendly. And the banter's never too sort of too bad. I mean, don't get me wrong. If you make a mistake or you make a bad decision, they'll let you know. But I think just the guys up north have a kind of just a more gentlemanly outlook sometimes, I think, for sure.
What's the best bit of advice you've ever been given?
The best bit of advice I was ever given as a referee was just before my first ever game at Ibrox. And what so it was a guy called Ian Fife who used to be a referee and then became a referee observer. So he assessed the referees, and he said to me, the one bit of advice he got as a referee when he went to his first game at Rangers is he said, whatever you do, keep your view at pitch level, at eye level. Don't look up into the crowds and the stand, because the stands are massive, And if you do, you'll suddenly be realised that actually you're right in the middle of 50,000 people. Whereas if you keep your vantage point at eye level, it's just you, the 22 players on the pitch, your 2 assistants, and your 4th official. And he was absolutely right. I mean, that day I refereed Rangers versus Gretna. Was my first ever game at Ibrox in the Premier League, and it almost was like, because I kept focused on the pitch, that there could have been like 10 people, or there could have been, as there was, 50,000. But I never looked up. And then I actually looked up, I think, in about the 89th minute, because I just wanted to take in the atmosphere of effectively having refereed my first game at Ibrox.
Just finally, when was the last time you had to pay for a ticket to go to a football match?
Oh, well, I pay all the time because I'm a season ticket holder at Old Trafford, so I kind of pay. But I do call in some favours from some of my old colleagues, so that I try and get some complimentary tickets from a few of them. But I actually quite enjoy, believe it or not, going to watch junior football, because then I can go and see some of the younger referees coming through the ranks and do a bit of coaching and a bit of guidance for them. So, and I don't mind paying my money to the juniors, because it's all about the local community and helping clubs like that survive, really. So yeah, I do pay quite often, honestly.
Good. Right, that wraps it up. Thank you for coming on. It's been a pleasure.
No problem. Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Likewise, from my point of view. Thank you.
Thank you.